Okay. Hi, everyone. We're just going to wait a couple of minutes for folks to join, and then we'll get started. All right, well, we'll slowly get started while folks are continuing to join. Welcome, everyone, to Behavior Support Rounds. This is a monthly rounds held at the same time every month. We're very, very lucky to have some wonderful presenters today on the topic of introducing to you an innovative new virtual training tool that's designed to increase staff retention and boost the team competency in long-term care specifically, and it's called the Learning Interprofessionally Healthcare Accelerator. And so we're having a lovely panel to present that here today. My name is Jordan Holland. I'm the Program Director for Behavior Supports in the Toronto region. And we're very happy to co-host these as part of a collaboration with Ontario Health, CLRI, or the Centers for Learning, Research and Innovation, and Toronto Central Behavior Supports. So although we are meeting virtually, we're acknowledging that Baycrest and our related Toronto Central Behavior Support programs are operating on the traditional territories of many Indigenous nations, which have cared for the land for thousands of years. We recognize the current treaty holders, and we are specifically acknowledging this land remains home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, and is subject to the dish with one spoon, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work with you and everyone on this land today. We may live and work in different territories, so we encourage you to reflect on the land in which you are located and consider the relationship you have to the land and the traditional keepers of the land. So just a bit of housekeeping, just to let you know, please make sure your microphone is continuing to be muted. We are going to be recording this session today and will be posted on our behavior support website and the CLRI website. You can put your questions in the chat. There's also a Q&A section, either or is fine, and we'll have lots of time at the end for discussion. If you have any technical concerns or questions, our wonderful telehealth coordinator, Agnes, is standing by, ready to support you, so please reach out and let us know. The format of today is we'll have the presentation, we'll have that time at the end for discussion and some wrap up. There will be a short poll, please fill it out, and if you want a certificate of attendance for this rounds, then please do answer the emailed evaluation after the end of this session. So now it is my great pleasure to introduce our presenters. Raquel Meyer, who I've worked with for many, many years and who is a wonderful educator and innovator. And she's the director of the Ontario Centre for Learning, Research and Innovation in Long-Term Care. There's 3 of them. She's the director of one at Baycrest. Rachel Walker is a knowledge broker for the Ontario Centers for Research and Innovation, again at Baycrest. And Natalie Leventhal is just joined us as well as a knowledge broker for the Centers for Aging, Brain Health and Innovation. So thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to stop sharing so we can allow our presenters to take over.
Great, thank you, Jordan. I'm going to share my screen now. Great. Okay, thank you so much. So welcome everybody, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your day today to hear about LIPHA. LIPHA is a virtual practice accelerator to enhance staff onboarding and virtual student placements in long-term care. So before I talk about LIPHA, I'd like to say that myself and Raquel and Rachel, we disclose that we've received grant support from the Ontario Ministries of Long-Term Care and colleges and universities. We have not received an honoraria or consulting fees. This program has not received financial support other than the support of the Ministries of Long-Term Care and Ministry of Colleges and Universities. This program has received in-kind support from Launch 57, Surge Learning, and CABI, and we do not have any potential conflict of interest to be disclosed today. The information presented in this program is based on recent information that is explicitly evidence-based. So Jordan already went over the introductions, so I'm going to skip this here. So over the past year, with all of the challenges faced by the long-term care sector, you may recognize some of these questions or thoughts that may have passed through your mind or may have occurred in team discussions or privately with team members. If you work in a long-term care home, you may have had the thought, we're so short-staffed, there really isn't time to buddy newcomers until they're ready to work independently. They have to fill spots on the floor and they have to take care of patients right away. If you're an administrator in long-term care, you may have thought new hires are leaving too quickly and it's a huge investment for our staff and time investment as well to train them. And as a student entering into long-term care, you might be thinking, am I doing okay? I'd really appreciate some feedback. These are some of the questions and challenges that have prompted the creation of LIPHA, which we'll be talking about in detail today. So the learning objectives for today's presentation, first we're going to tell you what is LIPHA. It's a meta simulation game-based training app created to support virtual onboarding and virtual student placement. We'll then discover how LIPHA can benefit long-term care home new hires and students to promote relational, safe, and team-based care, including dementia care. And then we'll learn how long-term care homes and teams are supported through the LIPHA program. So first things first, introducing you to LIPHA. So LIPHA stands for the Learning Interprofessionally Healthcare Accelerator. It's a virtual training platform developed as a response, as we just discussed, to the emerging challenges faced by the long-term care sector. A majority of these challenges were significantly highlighted as a response to the pandemic. And these challenges include high staff turnover, increased demand for a skilled clinical workforce, as well as a large number of new staff entering the workforce. And our team with LIPHA saw a need to promote careers and support the development and retention of a skilled workforce in the long-term care sector, which is why LIPHA was developed. So what exactly is LIPHA? It's a simulation, case, and story-based software application that's grounded in a serious meta-simulation game world. And what that means is LIPHA presents real-world problems and scenarios and uses simulated cases, quests, learning resources, and activities where learners can practice their communication and care planning skills and then are rewarded for problem solving that promotes relational care, safety, and teamwork. As you might have noticed in the opening slide of our presentation, we had the image of a queen, and that is Queen Dido. So the narrative simulation game world that LIPHA takes place in is that of ancient Carthage, an ancient empire which was founded by Queen Dido. And learners are part of a guild, which are a group of healers as they work with Queen Dido and to care for the elders of ancient Carthage. And they're required to work their way through the game, completing quests, earning gold, accessing resources, and then ultimately caring for a total of 8 residents. So I'm going to play a video now that's just going to give a bit more detailed information and an overview of LIPHA.
Are you looking for new ways to onboard team members more quickly and more effectively? Accelerate your training and orientation process with a powerful virtual training solution to improve the proficiency of new personal support worker and nursing hires in your long-term care home. Introducing the Learning Interprofessionally Healthcare Accelerator, an innovative, interactive, and effective way to rapidly train long-term care team members. This powerful virtual training solution combines leading practices in simulation and game-based learning to improve care outcomes and experiences for residents, families, and teams. Team member performance and observation, safety and risk assessment, personalization of care approach, care interventions, and team communication are enhanced by solving real-world case scenarios in a safe environment with feedback. The purpose of LIPHA is to improve the care and support that your team will provide to vulnerable residents living with varied cognitive abilities due to health conditions such as dementia, stroke, and developmental disabilities. What can LIPHA do for your long-term care home? It can meet various needs, such as onboarding new hires and upskilling recently recruited team members. The benefits of using LIPHA are many. LIPHA's case-based simulation and Ontario CLRI curated resources are all evidence-informed. Your team members will have access to training anywhere and anytime, and it can run on mobile, tablet, or desktop. Key to retaining your team members is LIPHA's deep game design with instant, rich feedback that will reward your team and keep them wanting to return to LIPHA. Your long-term care home will receive unlimited access for PSWs and nurses. LIPHA plays the role of a virtual coach for every team member to help them focus on best practices, safety, and teamwork. And the content is designed using plain language with considerations for learners with English as their second language. In addition, LIPHA can provide reporting to stakeholders at multiple levels, where individual team members can always know their progress in the app, allowing your educator to monitor progress and support individuals and team where needed, and allowing your organization to analyze how your teams are doing. This modernized and digital training approach will significantly reduce duplication of resources by long-term care homes, replacing static content and equipping the workforce prospectively to strengthen the long-term care sector and optimize quality of care and living for Ontario seniors during COVID-19 and beyond. Let's take a look at the immersive learning environment that results in longer engagement and improved knowledge retention and application. Once a member of your team enters a themed learning environment, they will be immersed into a compelling narrative to explore this world while working through simulation and case-based scenarios. The storyline, accompanying visuals, and underlying game mechanics set the foundation for a strong educational game. The core of the game economy are resources, including everything from currencies and badges to quests and power-ups. These can be configured as buyable items with an in-game store to allow learners to use earned currencies to purchase upgrades. Resources can be used to unlock new content or access hints that may be available. For example, in the case of determining the best care path for a resident, a team member can use their currency to purchase various tests to assist with their decisions. Get started with LIPHA today. Improve the relational care and safety within your home and enhance the performance and competency of your long-term care team. LIPHA. Accelerate your orientation and training. Empower your team.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit here and talk about game-based learning. So you might be asking yourself, will staff and students actually play a video game? And that is a very fair question. It's interesting to note with these statistics here, the number of Canadians who actually do play video games. You can see that more than half to 2/3 of adult women play games a week, while the number for men is much higher, 68%. So it's not out of the realm for adult Canadians to be playing video games, and it's certainly in the realm of the next generation of students that we're looking to recruit into the long-term care workforce. This is a way our team is trying to profile long-term care as an innovative space that is using the latest technology to support staff and team members. This is a bit of a rationale behind game-based learning, so why we chose serious educational games. You can see that in MRI data that when you play a game, the learning reward system in the brain is activated. So this helps anyone playing the game, it helps deactivate the tendency to drift mentally. When we play a serious educational game, our focus is better captured by the game. Serious educational games also put content second and emotion first. And emotion is how we learn and remember things. By putting emotion first, we're better able to engage the learner. And it's also an excellent way to promote empathy, which is, of course, very important for staff working in long-term care. And in LIPHA, we're able to do this through the use of the narrative. So as I mentioned, the narrative takes place in ancient Carthage and follows Queen Dido and a group of healers. Because as humans, we really like to have a story. We like to have a story to hold on to. And having LIPHA grounded in a story and a narrative helps learners better remember and structure their knowledge. So I'm now going to pass the presentation over to Raquel, who's going to talk to you about some of the features and benefits of LIPHA.
Thanks, Natalie. All right, so let's talk about what's inside LIPHA. What are people going to learn? So these are the primary components. We have mini simulations, and this is where we help learners break down larger skill sets and begin to understand and practice applying personal and nursing care skills specific to long-term care. And those skills are including observation, safety assessment, personalizing your approach to the resident, assessing, intervening, team communication and collaboration, as well as delegation. We have full simulations as well, and they are geared to the learner. So for first year novice students, they'll have introductory cases where the focus is mainly on knowledge acquisition and application. So it's a welcoming introduction to the field of gerontology and to long-term care. And we worked with educators from academia, from the schools, who told us we had to step back and create a welcoming experience around gerontology and aging, and that we had to be a little bit dementia light, if you will, in the first year. So you'll see there's a difference in the amount of content that's focused, specifically on dementia for the different groups, because we have a first year package and then we have a senior student package. Senior students and new hires to long-term care are going to do simulations that are more at the competent level for people who are entering in practice. And these are more high fidelity scenarios, and they're in the first person point of view of the nurse or the PSW who is approaching and providing care to a simulated long-term care resident. It's really nice in this game. You get to meet the residents not once, but 2 to 3 times, and you see them evolve over time, just as you would in long-term care. We've also included our SOS game for seniors care, which is really rapid mini simulations to help people identify and respond to acute deterioration in residents. Finally, there's a number of best practice resources. There's a curated selection of fact sheets, e-learning, videos, infographics, all geared or grounded in best practices And they have mini quizzes to help ensure understanding and completion. And these resources are all used in support of the simulations. And we really took a problem-based or case-based approach where you meet a resident and then you have to figure out, what do I need to know to support this resident? Next slide, please. So here's an overview of what is covered in the LIPHA platform. So the packages typically include a welcome to long-term care. What are the fundamentals of long-term care? Who lives here? Who works here? What are the different roles here? We include a number of items around resident bill of rights, resident safety and personhood, age-related challenges. There's a comprehensive overview of activities of daily living. And we worked with our stakeholders to develop common care experiences for the simulations. And the packages that we create are available for both PSW and nurse learners. There's additional content for nursing specifically related to assessment and medication management as well. Next slide. All right, so depending on who you're supporting, welcoming into long-term care, we have different packages. So if I start from the bottom, for your first year or your student that is new to long-term care, whether you're PSW or nursing, there's a 20-hour package to welcome you. That's your intro package. For students who are doing their second placement in long-term care, there is a 30-hour package for PSWs and a 35-hour package for nursing. There is a new 8-hour micro-credential available. So this is actually available Canada-wide, the micro-credential. It's available for free. It takes 8 hours to complete. There's a PSW role and or a nursing role, depending what you'd like to do. And finally, we worked with our homes who were part of our advisory group for LIPHA, and we developed an onboarding package to supplement your in-home orientation for new hires, knowing that sometimes, you know, with the stress of the pandemic and the staffing levels being what they are, we know people don't always get buddied for as long as you'd like, if at all, in some circumstances. And so this idea of giving people a space to practice, to get some feedback, to help them with their critical thinking as they're coming into long-term care, we wanted to do that. We started off with longer packages that included more content. However, the homes, as the pandemic progressed, said, no, they need to be shorter. So now we're at 14 hours for PSW and 16 hours for nursing. Next slide. Okay. So particular interests, of course, here in behavior support rounds as well, where's the focus on dementia in these packages? So 75% of our residents, our simulated residents in the games, are living with some form of dementia. We have put an emphasis on the safety, team, and relationship aspects of care. And this really includes attention to the life stories and social connections of the resident, as well as their personal preferences and their thoughts or their interpretations of situations to help people understand a little bit more from the resident's perspective. So as you can see in the different target groups or target groups of learners, we have a variety of dementia-focused learning resources. And the senior student package is the one where we go into the most depth in terms of dementia. And there are a variety of complementary content areas on the right, including person-centered language, compassionate communication, etc., that are all needed to support dementia care. All right, so what does it look like inside the game? Can we go to the next slide, please? Awesome. Okay, so if you start in the bottom left corner of the image, at start here, there's a star there, and work your way along. So first of all, you come into the game space and there's an introduction, and we immerse you immediately in the story of Carthage. And then once you have sort of know where you are and a little bit about your role and what's happening, we do a gameplay orientation to the homepage, like the console, so that you know how to operate in the game. We do a little bit on getting ready for the game world and your role, and you become a guild initiate. So you enter the guild, and that's a little bit where we will sometimes take a baseline where you're starting, and we really have done some pre-briefing there with learners to tell them how we're going to support them in the game and how much we look forward to them seeing themselves grow in the game. And eventually they'll have an opportunity to reflect on that themselves as they graduate from the guild. So they enter the game, we invite, this is the student one version, so the first year student or the first exposure students have to long-term care. We invite them to become resident ambassadors as well as story keepers. And so there's a variety of specific activities and skills that we want them to gather there. And that unlocks for them the next stage of the game, which is really around rapid care missions, which is those mini simulations, and some specialty quests to develop some content area expertise on different topics, whether it might be IPAC or other things like that, that will help them solve all of their simulations. Once they've been doing those mini simulations, which is like 4 steps for students and 6 steps for senior students and long-term care home staff, they'll apply them in full to full care missions, where they meet a resident 2 to 3 times and also engage on some specialty quests that will help them support that resident. So they might do a specialty quest around family engagement. For example, if there's a resident that has different family scenarios unfolding through the 3 different simulations. So once they've done that, they will graduate from the guild. So this is a little bit like your exit test. And we invite people to reflect on how they've grown through this process. Throughout the story, the adventure of Carthage and Queen Dido continues. So every 4 levels, a new chapter in the story unfolds and something new is happening, and it's mimicking the learner's own growth as a healer. So it's really supporting that. And we've embedded values around relational care, values and attitudes that we really wanted to promote for long-term care are embedded in that story. And so once you graduate from the guild, all is revealed in the epilogue. So we have a big climax and denouement to our story, and we won't give it away here. You have to play to find out. And then there is a final survey, and then a certificate of participation or completion is automatically issued. And the idea is we really want to scaffold the learners and support them to higher levels of competence. When they're in each section, even though there's this game flow, they have a lot of choice. So if there are 90 mini simulations for year 2 students in 5A, for example, they would have choice about how they complete those, in what order they want to complete those, etc. They also have choice when they enter the care missions section of the game about which residents they'd like to try working with first, and they can go in and out of those as they see fit. So the idea is that there's some exploration and choice within each section. Okay, maybe the next slide. Great. So there are many practice areas and kind of clusters of skills and competencies that we wanted to highlight and acknowledge in the learner and reward them for developing those kind of clusters of competencies. So for example, new students are encouraged to get a principled carer badge, which is awarded to healers who put the fundamental principles of respect, dignity, autonomy, and independence, comfort, IPAC, and safety into practice. And to be awarded this badge, players must complete all the resources that relate to those key principles. So they might have to read a fact sheet. They might have to do 2 or 3 mini simulations. They might have to do a full simulation. They might have to complete a piece of e-learning. And once they complete all of those, they are then awarded that badge. Next slide. And that's kind of fun because it's like a little bit of a treasure hunt for, for the learner. Go ahead, if you like collecting things, this is for you. So we wanted to show you, well, what does a full simulation look like? So we're going to meet Asmia here in this screen, and we start off with Asmia's voice. How does she experience living in the home for the aged, which is what we would call them in Carthage? How does, what's her experience of living there? And that, gives you a sense of how Asmia might communicate with you and so on. We also include a social profile and a health profile, and also a sensory profile. So we heard loud and clear from our family stakeholders. They really wanted a sensory profile. It was so important to them that staff and students really could understand the need to be aware of what sensory strengths the resident had, and to be able to accommodate those and support those in their care practice. So we did include that. Next slide. So as you progress with Asmia, you might read a scenario on the left. For example, it starts off a scenario, and consistent with case-based learning, below are some resources that we start to list that might be really helpful in helping you solve this scenario. It's your choice if you want to open them now or later. At the top right is a really important piece called Resident Insights and Team Consults. And Resident Insights show are where you go to find about the life story of the resident, as well as their social connections, their personal preferences, things that they enjoy, as well as some of their inner thoughts. This is also a section where you consult with the team. So it's a great way to learn which members of the team do what and can help you in which situations. And so there's a variety of team roles that you can open and unlock to see and learn what the different team members do. And then we have some multiple choice questions that walk you through the clinical framework to support you to solve the case. Next slide. All right, so once you get here, the idea is we wanted to provide tips. So if you got the answer right, we wanted to reinforce why that was a correct answer, what the best practice was, and if it was something that you didn't get right yet, we wanted to provide reflective prompts to improve people's clinical reasoning, or to point them to the necessary or ideal resource that would help them solve the case. And so that's a little bit of an overview of what's inside the game. So over to you, Rachel.
Wonderful. Thank you for all of that valuable information, Raquel and Natalie. And now we wanted to take a few moments just to highlight some of the benefits of LIPHA for the learners. Next slide, please. Beautiful. So last year we piloted LIPHA for long-term care homes with 440 students, and that the vast majority experienced improved confidence as a result of gameplay. So with this, over 75% were more confident in terms of role clarity and scope of practice. Students could more confidently identify, prioritize, and respond to urgent situations and symptoms displayed by residents. And it was also noted that they could better manage multiple care priorities and report back to their interdisciplinary teams. In addition to that, over 80% were more confident responding compassionately to residents, balancing quality of life and risk, and applying best practices. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what did we discover in regards to the value of learner success in LIPHA for administration? Administration reported that LIPHA positively impacted their organization, as well as reported that LIPHA was positively influencing team members. Administration saw, administration saw many benefits for their team members, including increased interest in the field of gerontology and geriatric care, an increased knowledge about topics critical to older adults and aging, and the quality of care provided by team members. Another key benefit that was the confidence related to providing care for the older adults was enhanced. Next slide, please. So from an equity, diversity, inclusivity perspective, we learned that the students really valued the diversity of the simulated residents, characters, and avatars featured in the game. Students reported that they saw themselves represented in these characters and they experienced increased empathy for diverse groups of older adult populations. And on the screen there, you can see some of the avatars and residents and characters that are embedded into the LIPHA platform. Next slide, please. So we put in some testimonies. So I'm just going to read them for you here. This first one is from a long-term care administrator. And they said, I really enjoyed the platform because it uses a unique approach to learning compared to traditional approaches. So it will be beneficial for training processes for staff. Next slide, please. This one is from a long-term care team member. I really enjoyed the platform because it uses a unique approach to learning compared to traditional approaches. It will be beneficial for training processes for staff. And the next one is from an educator. And it says, I see value in LIPHA. I will use this opportunity to test out a potential prerequisite to PSW course. Next slide. So a big component of LIPHA and the resources are the resources and tools that we provide to both long-term care homes and schools as a part of that implementation and onboarding process. And we're just going to walk through a few of those right now. Next slide. So in order to ensure that successful rollout and implementation of LIPHA, we have developed a variety of resources that will support both your faculty and students throughout the use of LIPHA. The three main tools included are our LIPHA champion circles, also known as our LCCs. We also have our long-term care resource portal, and then we also have a troubleshooting portal. So the LIPHA champion circles are an opportunity for students or faculty or staff to meet virtually with members of the LIPHA team, which would include a knowledge broker, a member of our education team on the CLRI, and then a team member from Launch 57 to provide technical support. And it's a safe space for team members and staff and students to come and ask those questions, seek clarification, connect with fellow students or staff, and also provide that feedback to our team. That feedback is vital for us to improve the platform moving forward, and we really value that, that feedback from them. The second one is our long-term care resource portal, and this is where you can find up-to-date information about LIPHA, including frequently asked questions, webinar recordings, easily accessible onboarding materials, and information regarding submitting a ticket via SpiceWorks, which brings us to that last one there, and that's our troubleshooting portal. So this is a platform that's embedded into LIPHA, and it is a ticketing system where students can submit questions or concerns via SpiceWorks, and they're submitted to our Launch 57 team. So this is a resource that can provide that technical support or content support within the game, and it's accessible at any point in time and whenever the need may arise. As for the long-term care home specifically, we also have the ability to provide limited backfill to support homes on a first-come, first-served basis to the PSWs and nurses that are spending the time using the platform. So please note, though, that the fund will reimburse the long-term care homes to cover backfill costs up to 14 hours for PSWs and up to 16 hours for nurse. And again, that is on a first-come, first-served basis. Next slide, please. So after years of developing and researching ways to use serious educational games and simulations together to meet the needs of our long-term care, LIPHA is now in its second year and is available to all long-term care homes and Ontario post-secondary institutions. It was built for, with, and by long-term care stakeholders, including residents and family members themselves, like Raquel had mentioned. We are truly grateful to be able to offer it to you in an accessible format with absolutely no cost to you, your home, or educational institution. And we encourage you to get in touch with us by filling out our intake form, which will now be placed in the chat. And that will trigger from either Natalie or myself, we are the knowledge brokers on the project, to connect with you, and we can set up those introduction meetings to go more into depth on how we can support your individual institution or your organization. Next slide, please. Wonderful. We also wanted to obviously leave this time for any questions that you may have. And thank you so much for joining us and listening to our presentation today.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. I wanted to just open it up to everyone to ask their questions and provide their comments. You can do that in the chat, or you can do that in the Q&A section. I did see someone put in a question, which Natalie, thank you for answering. But just for the benefit of everyone, Alma asked if this can be expanded to other disciplines, for example, recreational therapy, volunteers, or even families. So Natalie, You mentioned your answer, which is right now it's limited to PSW nursing staff or students, but you're looking at maybe there could be an expansion of opportunity in the future. Do you want to expand a little bit on that, or?
Oh, do you want me to do it, Natalie? I'm happy to do it. Oh yeah, like we also see the applicability that it could have to other groups that are mentioned here today. And we're interested in doing that. Right now, we're just kind of wrapping up proof of concept. We need some uptake by the homes and the schools first to sort of demonstrate that it is scalable and desired. As we can seek out additional funding, we're looking to expand to the different roles in long-term care, and we clearly see the value that it could have for families and volunteers as a different way to learn too.
Awesome. Thanks, Raquel. And I just see Tanya. Thank you, Tanya, for putting a link on the chat. And that's the same form that they were referring to if you're interested in setting up a meeting to learn more about the app and how they can support you and your teams. Okay. I might share my screen quickly. Okay, there we go. So we do have a few minutes to continue our discussion. Hopefully everyone feels comfortable putting forward their questions into the chat or into the Q&A. You're also welcome to reach out to any of the panel members afterwards, and we can relay your questions to the presenters and give you an answer. While people are putting in their questions or information, I'll just mention that there'll be a short poll that pops up. If you want any certificate of attendance, please do not only complete the poll that pops up, but also the evaluation that's emailed to you to get your certificate. And that this presentation will be posted on the BSO and CLRI website. So if you think this is really interesting and you have a colleague or someone you know that may benefit from watching it, you can certainly reach out to us to ask for the link, or you can see it pop up on our websites in the coming month or so. Okay, so I'll go back to the Q&A. Are there any questions or comments?
It's Jordan. I just wanted to mention that attached, I think you'll be sharing the slides, and mine and Rachel's emails on there, so that if anyone, you know, maybe you leave today and you think, oh, I had a question that I didn't ask, you can always send us an email, or we could even set up a meeting to talk to you more about LIPHA.
Wonderful. I see. Okay, so someone asked, that would be great to circulate your contact. And they were talking about gerontology. So they developed something similar for recreational therapy students together with Baycrest called Bloom Village. Do someone remember about Bloom Village or have any kind of concept to that?
I know of it as a project with George Brown College, I believe. But if the attendee who mentioned it knows more, I think it would be great to share with the group.
Great. Yeah, feel free to put any links to other similar kinds of content or programs. I know there's lots of great resources coming out and available from CLRI and other CLRI sites, as well as other areas who are looking to support this group of people in long-term care that we mentioned.
So it kind of raises an important question around, like, so how is LIPHA different than other types of offerings?
Sure.
And for what I would say is that the packages we offer, really like a 20 to 35-hour package, is going to help a learner develop sets of competencies that are specialized and specific to long-term care. And it's going to take them on a journey where they're learning is scaffolded so that they can move to higher levels of competency and receive feedback while they're doing that. And I think that makes it a little different than kind of one-off activities, like what you can learn in a 5-minute simulation or a 1-hour e-learning is quite different than being on a journey where you're supported in your growth. And it helps students to get socialized, if you will, to what is long-term care, what is my role in long-term care? What does the team do? Who should I ask for help? All of those things are sort of built in throughout. And so it's really like a welcoming socialization. Welcome to long-term care is a specialty area. And we're going to give you a little bit of depth here. We're going to go on, a 20 to 35 hour package for students is quite significant. And for the new hires, we're really saying, welcome to long-term care. Let's get you familiar with the lay of the land and who lives here and what your role is and how the different team members interact and engage together. So that's kind of the difference, is that it's quite an extensive package designed to do that, as opposed to like a small set of skills. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really love, Raquel, because it's like the gamification aspect of it. Do you find, is there a lot of evidence around like engagement through gamification is sort of attributed to higher levels of retention of knowledge, or, kind of sticks with people longer? And how, I know you would talk about this in your introduction with the teams, but how do teams support people to do this? Because it's not a typical learning environment. And so is it sort of something that they say, as part of your orientation, you'll have like a little bit of time set aside for your first couple of weeks with us to do this? Or do they kind of add this as an additional tool that they can do on their own time? Or, what are the ways that we can support people to use it?
Yeah, so I think it's important for the new hire, for example, in a long-term care home, to feel supported. So what we have is like an educator guide for the educator in the home that is supporting the new hire, the person that's coming onto the team. And we've kind of laid out what's happening in the game and why. And we've laid out how can the educator use elements of the game to help that transfer to practice. So it isn't something you should necessarily put the new hire into and leave them and then it's done. It's like, okay, so what are you learning in the game? Which resident did you complete your care missions with? What questions did that bring up? Do we have anyone here that you're caring for that looks like that? And then you can have some discussions about transferring that to practice. So we have support for that. There is a guide for the homes. We have the LCCs, the Learning Champion Circles as well. And we're happy to provide one-to-one support and to talk through with the home how best to integrate it into their particular way of working. We're happy to do that. And in terms of the science, we know that serious games done well are equally as effective as other methods, if not more effective, at knowledge retention and ability to apply. And certainly they have much higher levels of engagement. So the more you're using your brain and being active, the more likely you are to remember something. So we top lectures, we top games, top those things really easily if they're done well. And so this is a great leading edge example. We're probably the first in the world to have such a game for healthcare providers, and we did it in long-term care. So I think we should be really proud, and I think we should really take it up for our workforce. They deserve it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Raquel, and thanks so much, team.
Sorry, Jordan. I just wanted to add something on top of what Raquel said about sort of how LIPHA is different, but also how our team is supporting long-term care home teams is that right from the start, we have a knowledge broker who is dedicated to either long-term care home or the school, working with that organization throughout the whole process right until the end. So really providing tailored implementation support. So like Raquel's talking about, we can provide one-on-one support. We have those drop-in group LCC sessions. So it's something that's unique to LIPHA is really that how can we make life a best fit for the long-term care home so that it can be successful and that staff want to be engaging with it. So I think that's a unique thing to highlight.
Great. And that's nice to know that there's so much support from CLI. So with that, I think we'll move to wrap up. And thank you again for all of your offers to connect with folks. Thank you for the poll, Agnes. If everyone could just take a minute to answer 2 quick questions. And thank you so much for spending the the afternoon, part of the afternoon with us. Again, feel free to reach out to CLRI or to BSO with your questions and comments. Oh, last question. Okay, well, thank you for answering it. This could be available in other provinces. So thanks again and take care, everyone. Have a great afternoon.